Welcome to the Model Health Show. This is fitness and nutrition expert Shawn Stevenson, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in with me today. I am super excited about this episode. This topic is a long time coming. Today, we're focusing on our teeth. All right, we're focusing on oral care. What are the best practices? What are the things to avoid? I know that for a lot of people, this is a big place of concern. You know, how do we handle issues of things like gingivitis and issues with cavities and things of that nature? What about whitening our teeth? What do we do? Now, today, I think you're going to have an entirely new paradigm shift take place in understanding what you're actually seeing when you see your teeth and your gums. And it is phenomenal. We've got one of the top experts in the world on dental health here today to share her incredible insights with you. And just in the context of looking at things from a bigger perspective today, a lot of us are shifting over and we're avoiding toxic products, you know, deodorants that have known carcinogens, things like aluminum in them, and our toothpaste, and we're getting more natural versions of those things. But are we truly aware when we have a product that has 30 different ingredients in it, do we know what it's doing to our teeth and to our gums and to the microbiome in our mouth? Now, this is one of the other big paradigms and understanding we don't just have a gut microbiome, we also have a microbiome in our mouth. And it is really the front line of protection for our health because our interaction with many of the things that we consume before it even gets to our gut microbiome, it's going through the front line of our mouth microbiome. And some of the things that we're doing today, largely for so many people, are really just destroying the microbiome in our mouth. And we're inhibiting not just the health of our teeth, but our overall health and our ability to digest our food properly, our ability to absorb nutrients, even if we're not taking care of this mouth microbiome. And so, again, really, really excited about this episode. We're going to talk about taking care of your teeth. We're going to talk about preventing cavities, even what to do if you have some cavities brewing, and how to take care if you got the stank breath, all right? Now, this is another thing that's grown in public awareness, things like, you know, halitosis, you know, chronically stank breath. You know, what do we do? What are the different aspects of that? And so we're going to talk about all that stuff because I know for many people, myself included, it's just like, okay, we'll go natural, have some natural deodorant, but don't do that if you're going to be around me, you know, smelling like outside, you know, smelling like a farm, you know. I want to do this, but still be sexy. You know, I want to do this and still be able to, you know, have a conversation and not offend somebody because, you know, your mouth smells like last year. You feel me? So how can we do this stuff, have great oral care, taking a natural approach, but still having the sexy be a continuous thread through it all? All right. So with that said, we got to talk about sexy nutrition really quickly. And since we're talking about the topic of our teeth and really the bed that they lay in is our gums. Our gums are, as we're going to hear about today, so important in our overall health. And we even know that with inflammation in the gums, we see this, you know, higher levels of things like C-reactive protein, but this is a huge indicator of systemic inflammation. Our gums having inflammation, inflamed gums also is a big parallel to issues like heart disease, right? So, which is a huge thing. And this is something that is pretty well known today. And you should go to Dr. Google and check out that correlation between gum disease and heart issues. It's shocking. So we want to really take care of our gums. And I just came across this study, and this was actually conducted in 2012, found that turmeric, the compounds in turmeric, can actually prevent gum disease. In this particular study, they found that it was able to remove plaque, remove nefarious bacteria, and help to reduce inflammation. And again, we don't think about that in terms of food. When we think about, you know, helping to prevent gingivitis, I remember seeing the commercials, right? Listerine, let me go ahead and just burn everything in my mouth, try and burn down the whole house. You think about this in the context of our gut microbiome. We know that taking haphazard antibiotic treatments, it destroys everything. It really turns the entire cascade of bacteria upside down. It doesn't care if it's a good bacteria or not. Same thing with our mouth. Natural, real, food-based ingredients like turmeric are one of those things that help from the inside out to protect your gums. And for me, I get in my healthy daily dose of turmeric through incredible blends from Organifi. Their gold formula, the hallmark ingredient is organic turmeric. They also have in that formula ginger, reishi mushroom, which is great for improving your sleep, and also turkey tail mushroom. And both of those have really powerful immunomodulating effects that are great for helping your oral care as well. And it tastes amazing. That's one of the big things to communicate. Cinnamon is another thing that's great for your oral health as well. And it has coconut milk, blends great if you have some, something like some unsweetened almond milk, mixing it with that. I love adding this to smoothies too. A lot of folks, funny enough, have this at night to help them to relax and improve their sleep quality. That's the thing I hear the most when people do the gold, is that it helps them to sleep better. And it's probably a big result of the turmeric doing its thing and also the reishi mushroom in there too. And so, huge fan of the gold. Pop over there, check it out. It's Organifi.com/model. That's ORGANIFI.com/model. And you get 20% off their gold formula, the green juice formula, the red juice, and even their daily turmeric, which I travel with that. I love that one so much. And again, there's so many benefits, from reducing inflammation to helping to improve the health of our gums. And as you're gonna learn today, it's super important. So again, Organifi.com/model for 20% off everything that they carry. And now let's get to our Apple Podcast review of the week.
Another 5-star review titled New Adventures by Coben Girl. I feel each time I listen to a new podcast, I'm experiencing wonderful adventures. I learn a lot and I'm truly inspired. Keep it going, please.
Awesome. It's totally my pleasure. We're going on a wonderful adventure today as well. And if you've yet to do so, please pop over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for the show. I appreciate it so much. And on that note, let's get to our special guest and topic of the day. Our guest today is Nadine Artemis, and she is an innovative visionary and wellness and beauty expert, author of 2 hit books, including Renegade Beauty and The Complete Guide to Healthy Teeth and Gums. She's a creator of Living Libations, a luxury line of organic, wildcrafted, non-GMO serums, elixirs, and essential oils for those seeking the purest of the pure botanical natural health, immune-enhancing, and beauty products on the planet. And a little fun fact is that so many leaders in the health space turn to Nadine's wisdom to take care of their own teeth and their own oral care. And I'm so grateful to have her on today. And so we're gonna jump into this conversation with Nadine Artemis. You know, when I asked him to throw me this pen, it made me think about my wife, and she gets kind of cocky about stuff, like, see, I can do it. I threw her something yesterday and she caught it, and she thinks it's her, but it's actually a good throw is what makes it work. You know what I mean? But you got an interesting throw from your environment, from your parents. And I was wondering, and I'm so excited to have you here, but I was wondering what got her interested in health and wellness. And so I was just, researching you, looking into some of your background, and your environment didn't necessarily say, hey, health and wellness. So can you tell me, where did that interest come from? Talk a little bit about your dynamic, because your mom was very much into art and such a dynamic person there. You're an entrepreneur, parent.
Well, the great thing too about my mom is she, there's 3 of us kids, and she really was able to somehow really guide each person's talent. So my brothers and sisters are we're all very diverse, very different people. So that was a testament to her love of loving us equally, but seeing the individuation. So there was that. But we had a cottage. And which is like a country home or like a lakeside home in Canada. And I was immersed in nature all summer long. And it was just like you went out after breakfast and you came home at 9 at night. And I was left to my own devices, and I could like stare at a patch of grass or like build forts with leaves and things. And I was just so into like grinding plants and mixing things, even, just mud and stuff like that, and putting it on my body. So I had this inclination then. And then when I wasn't at the cottage, I would definitely be raiding my mother's bathroom and mixing like her expensive perfumes with the skull and crossbones things under the sink.
So you're a little chemist.
Little chemist in the early years, but so fond of nature And it was really like, once it's being taken away, like sort of when you go to university and all that, it's like, I got to get back there for sure. But I also, I did a science fair project in grade 9. I didn't know what I was going to do, so I was researching at the library, and I found a book that was geared to a younger audience about making cosmetics, and I was thrilled because my bathroom was just bottles, and I got all the hand-me-downs. So it was really crazy in there in my teens. But it was a chapter on perfumery, and it talked about like the whole history of it and how they came from plants. And that was like radical information back then. And it really talked about the history of Egypt, which I was very fascinated by because my great-grandfather was actually the president of the London Egyptology Society, and he would go on archaeological digs as the illustrator. So he would do the paintings of what they were finding. That was back in the 1800s. Wow. So I was just really resonating with that. And the book talked about the distillation of plants being essential oils, and that today you could find them at the health food store. Today being back then. And so my mom took me to the big city. We went to Toronto, and I found my first essential oils, and then I recreated L'air de Temps with natural essential oils for the project. And so that was really fun. But then I'm still, being a teen and exploring, and then the first inkling of green beauty came out with the Body Shop, and so I thought that was pretty cool. But then I get to university, I'm skipping school, and I'm watching Lisa Bonet on TV talk about, diet. It was Diet for a New America, and it was the first I'd heard of health and environment being connected to the food that we're eating. And so that opened up a whole thing. And in that period, it was about a month-long period, I stopped eating processed food. I only ate organic. And then I really started reading labels and understanding what I was looking at the supermarket, which totally led me to going, what am I putting on my body? So within a month, I just eliminated all of that, and I started diving into creating my own cosmetics in earnest as I was going through university. And learning other things. So it was really neat. And then at university, I was really bored first year, but then I discovered women's studies. And the cool thing about that, our textbooks were things like Our Bodies, Ourselves. We were getting educated on the horrors of IUDs and birth controls. I was doing projects on midwifery. I was doing papers on Madonna, and my thesis was on the female orgasm. So that was amazing. I was diving into that and then looking at also the history of women's bodies. It hasn't been a good story in Western culture, or really in many parts of the world. And so I was doing all that and then making things, which I really feel are connected, because we also have a history of putting toxins and poisons on our body that we're being marketed to. And, we've been experimented on, for medicinal things and all of that. So it really gelled. And then I was needing to find ingredients that I couldn't, because I was reading these older books, and I had to get a whiff of what formulas or raw materials were smelling like in the Egyptian times. Why were they putting those things together? And what did Angelica or Immortelle smell like? So I was starting to import essential oils because there wasn't the quality available back then. And then 6 months after graduating, I opened up North America's first full concept aromatherapy store, and I had all my little formulas out, and we had the blending bar and everything. So
let's talk about the blending bar. What does that mean?
Yeah, so that was really fun. It was a fun concept, and I would make custom blended perfumes for people. So people would come in, and then it was really fun. That's where I first met Alanis Morissette, because she'd heard about the store. And then we had a mutual friend, and the friend was like, oh my God, I know her, we can go to the store. So we met after one of her concerts in Toronto, and then she came, and she was just like a kid in the candy store, just smelling everything, and I was making a blend for her. And then what was really neat too is we also sold essential oils by the drop, or you could, buy bottles. So people would come in with little things and get a drop of rose and everything. It was really awesome.
Oh my gosh, so cool. I just want to go back and just, first of all, shout out to Lisa Bonet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I, of course, saw her on The Cosby Show, but A Different World. I was like, young crush. But I saw she also shouted you out. She is one of the people who reviewed your book.
Yeah, which was so amazing. And then such a neat thing, it was a few years ago, we were at a birthday party here in Topanga, and mutual friends. So she comes up to me, and I'm like, and she's looking familiar, but she comes up and she's like, oh my God, I just heard your whole breast talk, and it was just so amazing. And so she was thanking me, and I was like, oh my God. But truly, you instigate, like knowing what she said about food, it was totally connected to like dissecting beauty care products. So it was like she was such a catalyst for me. It was such a fun full circle moment.
Those things happen all the time
Yeah.
when you're paying attention to, and you're just like on your purpose. And so with that being said, your purpose, and I would love if you could, it was such an interesting concept to make the store in the way that you made it, custom things, because these essential oils, there's different things and different things for different people at different times. Can you first share what essential oils, what does that mean?
Yes, yeah, it can get confusing because essential oils actually aren't oily. They're not fat. There's no fat in them. So they're actually volatile plant extracts that are made generally through the process of distillation. So you'll have you'll harvest lavender, and that will be in a distillation unit. There'll be a heat source underneath, and then the essential oil. It's kind of like the blood of a plant. Not all plants have it. It's an aromatic molecule, and it's part of the plant's defense system. And so then the oil becomes just vapor. And then it goes through a cooling coil where then it comes sort of back to life in its solid form of a liquid. But it doesn't meld with water in the sense that like it's an oil that doesn't mix with water, but it is an oil. And then they'll skim that off the water, and what's left would be like lavender water or rose water, if you've heard of those terms. And then the essential oil, which, it takes so many plants to make a few drops. So for example, rose is more expensive because it takes 60 rose heads to make 1 drop of rose otto essential oil. So I love all plants and extracts, but essential oils just have such a special quality. They're so multifaceted because there's the sense of smell. So it's speaking to us on an emotional and sort of psycho-spiritual level. However, if you couldn't smell, if you had a bottle of rosemary under your nose and you can't smell it, it's still working on the body on a physiological way. So those molecules will travel up through the nose, activate the hypothalamus, and then the molecules go and do their work, whether it's helping the lungs or liver. So they're very, very medicinal as well. So they're beautiful. You can make a perfume, or they're hardcore medicine. Because to varying degrees, all essential oils are antifungal, antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory.
Wow.
So they're potent.
This is so important because we tend to think of just, when we think about nutrition, now more people are aware like what you put on your skin or, what you're ingesting via your mouth, but also, your olfactory senses of like the things that you're breathing in.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important to realize that the most important nutrient in our life is oxygen.
Yeah.
And we're breathing it in. So this should just give us a little parallel that the things you breathe have an incredible impact on every cell in your body. And also the things that you smell, like it's in you now,
Yeah.
And
there's a great quote from scent is a brother to breath. And so, we want to inhale good smelling stuff because otherwise we can't escape it. Yeah. Like nothing like just being behind exhaust or like an elevator of cologne. And you can't escape.
Or a son on a high protein diet.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I thought about. But so just with that, there's so many things I want to ask you about, and we can just talk about all the different dynamics with essential oil, but I would really love to know what shifted your attention to oral care, because this is it's so crazy that we compartmentalize this, right? It's just like dental health is separate from the rest of your body. Right?
Yeah.
But it's so interconnected. What's going on with your mouth is a huge indication of things that are even happening with your cardiovascular system.
Absolutely. Or even could end up being a preterm pregnancy. It's so connected, yeah. So in that time when at university I'm exploring and doing all those things, also at the same time, because I'm then buying every book at the health food store and seeing like, oh my God, if you have a headache, it's like this, and this, or maybe you're constipated or something. It's not just like, oh, take a Tylenol. So I was really like all new information back then, especially for me, and it wasn't like it is today. So that being said, I kind of understood a lot to do with the body and the systems, but then when it came to teeth, I felt a gap and there wasn't books. Like there was a lot I could find out about the body and, I've got, any kind of all those little ailments we all seem to have, like eczema or, There was so many solutions for that naturally and not the teeth. And of course, I had to take care of my teeth. I'm in my 20s. You're out on your own. You're no longer on like the family dental plan. And I remember at 22 finding out about mercury and fully having those removed right away. I mean, the moment I understood the truth about that. But then I'm going to what was a holistic dentist back then. She wasn't too holistic, but the hygienist was really good. And so she was saying, well, your gums are in good condition, but you have a cavity starting here. And she said, but you can take care of it. So that was also revolutionary. Once you had a cavity, you just got it filled. Yeah. So she's like, go home and work with all those things you work with. And then I did. And I came up with, that was the first formula for the Happy Gumdrops. And I applied it and I worked with it. And then I went back in 6 months to x-ray it and it was gone. The beginning of the cavity. So that was fascinating to learn. And then that started sort of a revolution. And then I was like making more dental care lines and that sort of stuff. But then also just like really there was a gap in how to take care of our teeth on a daily level. So I believe it was around 2009. And I had a lot of information I put together. So I just self-published my own dental book. And people were like, you won't get published. I was like, I don't care because it just needs to be out there. But that's actually what led to getting published, just on a note of anybody that's self-publishing. Yeah. And I just started to see the whole interconnection and, researching people like Dr. Weston Price or Dr. Melvin Page. And then I came across, and Dr. Hal Huggins, and I came across this really rare book of Dr. Hal Huggins, who was such a pioneer in dental work and telling us about mercury since 1963. And it was this book called Why Raise Ugly Kids, and because he has such a sense of humor, and it was all different kinds of things. It was a really good dental chapter, and there was one line where he said all of his dental knowledge was like washed away like a sandcastle on the beach, because he met with Dr. Steinem, and he explained that there's a dentinal lymph fluid, a dentinal lymph system. So our teeth have their own lymphatic system. And that's how cavities are formed. It's not the acidogenic theory of acids and sugars sitting on the teeth. It's, of course, a deep alchemical system in our body that has to do with hormones and the hypothalamus and all of that. So, so we chew food, the substrates are activating the parotid glands and the hypothalamus, which is sending messengers. And so from our digestive system, the blood comes up with all the nutrients up to the tooth area, and the tooth is like a tree, where the roots are drawing up the nutrients, and then in a centrifugal fashion, upwards and inwards up to the surface it goes through the pulp chamber, and then the odontoblasts, this is all happening on a microscopic level. They push out the dentinal lymph fluid onto the surface of the tooth like this microscopic sweat. And then that coalesces with the saliva to heal, repair the teeth, and prevent cavities. When we're getting stressed, we don't have enough nutrients, we don't have magnesium, we don't have K2, D3, like all those beautiful nutrients, or we're talking on the cell phone by our parotid gland all day, or there's a lot of fluoride affecting the glandular system, all those types of things, then that dentinal lymph fluid system stagnates, so then the nutrients aren't getting to the teeth, or in worse conditions, it begins to reverse. And then the tooth becomes like a straw, sucking in viruses and bacteria into the tooth. And that's the genesis of how cavities are formed. So of course it's fully systemic.
Yeah, that's incredible, because that's like demystifying something that has impacted probably the vast majority of people. And we think, again, sugar, but it's a different route with the sugar.
Yeah, it's more about your blood sugar levels.
Yeah. Because we tend to treat it just the surface, right? We're doing the window dressing. And I love that analogy of it being like the roots and a tree. And you mentioned, even the cell phone. I remember coming across some research, this was years ago, about this sharp increase in parotid gland tumors since the advent of cell phones. And it's just like, for me, I'm very analytical, and I'm just looking at like, how does that even make sense? But all of these different waves, again, we talked about the aromas, like it's particles, like we're absorbing. There's waves and frequencies, and even like in, if we talk about Wi-Fi, it's able to travel through walls, different frequencies. Your body is like, we are very sensitive, and we're kind of electromagnetic.
I was going to say we're like
atoms,
electrical.
So stuff travels through us easy. And the closer we put these dangerous, and there's even like warnings on cell phone, well, they used to be, like, don't hold it up to your head. Like, where am I supposed to put it? You know what I mean? And so, because like we have to be aware of this stuff, I'm glad that you brought that up. And I think, so you mentioned this concept of we have an internal toothbrush,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I love that because, of course, we have so much decay right now, but of course we weren't born with a toothbrush in our hand. So I feel like, sure, we're going to take care of our teeth, but what if we get out of the way? What's the body's natural system to actually take care of our teeth? And it's this fluid that comes out onto the teeth, this sort of microscopic sweat. That prevents cavities, it prevents biofilms, it prevents all the buildup. Because we want to get to that place where, like, what if we didn't have toothpaste or anything? Like, the teeth are designed to stay in the body, so we got to figure that out. And the thing that also was different from what I thought of teeth growing up, because it just seemed like the teeth, they grew, and if there's if a cavity comes, again, you're filling it. It's like, it's a done deal. What I didn't understand, but what I know is true, is that the teeth are alive, the mouth is alive, and it's connected to the rest of the body. So whatever condition your mouth is in right now, it can improve. Gum pockets can come back down. You don't have to necessarily have gum surgery. Enamel can heal. You can get whiter teeth without bleach. We can rebalance the microbiome in our mouths.
And I want to talk about all these things. The first thing I want to cover is, since we just left there, let's talk about whitening.
Yeah.
Because even like, it's so weird that we think we're kind of trying to polish the teeth or buffer our teeth with a toothbrush, but our teeth are not what they appear to be.
Yes, yeah, I love that understanding about whiteness, because we're a bit obsessed. Again, it's sort of the surface veneer stuff that we keep trying to tackle with health, but it doesn't really work. So the enamel is actually transparent, like a window, and it reflects the inside of the tooth. So that if the dentin and the pulp chamber is healthy, and I think of it as like fat because you've hopefully had getting all those fat soluble vitamins, then that will reflect out. And then you'll look like you have whiter teeth because then you're reflecting that out. So hopefully you're having a good diet, and like if there's really like nutrients lacking, you're gonna see that gray, glassy teeth. I don't know if you've ever seen people with that, because the nutrients aren't getting there, and no amount of bleach is gonna clear that up either. So whiteness really comes from within. Now, if you're doing all that, but you're still feeling a bit of discoloration, it could be older calculus or tartar buildup. And then, a lot of our people are eating pigment-rich foods. And so the spirulina, the red wine, the blueberries can be discoloring just the calculus and plaque buildup. So you want to make sure you're going to, have a clean mouth to start. And a lot of holistic dentists have a salt spray they use, and it's kind of like, when they sandblast old buildings, and so you can kind of salt blast your teeth, and that's a great way once you have that done, your teeth are going to be so white, you don't need the bleach, and then you'll just clear off all the old plaque. So we don't need, because the bleaching will set you into a cycle of thinning teeth that are eventually yellowing, and you get in a vicious cycle of needing the bleach more and more.
That's scary. And then, of course, and this is super important to talk about. I grew up, I remember when the toothpaste came out, it was like Aqua Fresh. And also, in the commercial, they show this huge whipping cream on top of your toothbrush. And it says use a pea-size amount because it's poisonous. Yeah. But these different whitening toothbrushes.
And maybe harmful if swallowed.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because so many of these, and I know people listening is like, well, I got to have my Crest, it keeps me right. Let's talk about what the potential downside is with these conventional toothpaste.
So many things. I do tell people, if you get sea salt, baking soda, I make a beautiful line of dental serums, but even forget that. Just ditch everything you have and go for just baking soda and sea salt. If you did that for the rest of your life, you'd be a million times better off than using things from the drugstore. There's so many issues with that. I kind of have this thing where I say stop, seal, and seed. So to stop, you want to stop using the Crest, the triclosan, the sodium lauryl sulfate that's creating bleeding gums. And then allowing, once you have bleeding gums, then all the chemicals from the toothpaste is going into your body even faster.
because the gums are like our front line of defense.
Yeah, and they're only one cell thin. It's like it's the epithelium, so it's everything's going in.
It's like leaky gums.
It is. I said that in my book. I kind of made up that leaky gums, and the cavity's kind of like a leaky tooth, and of course it's connected to leaky guts and all that. But yeah, see, we wanted the mouthwashes. Yeah, we got to stop leaking and leaking our energy. And then, like, not to get into brand names, but I guess it doesn't matter. But that, like, alcohol mouthwashes. You can just Google. It's like something like 36,000 cases of oral cancer a year.
Listerine, out here messing people up. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and that's like, right, your toothpaste, your mouthwash that you swig, it's like not helping. And then, so besides the chemicals, which I feel like we've kind of all been getting to know since the 90s, we're like, oh yeah, all these chemicals we're putting on our body. But now, with understanding the microbiome, now we know not only these chemicals disrupting our endocrine system, they're messing with the microbiome. They're mutating microbes and beneficial bacteria that we need in our mouths to keep it all in balance. The beneficial bacteria will keep that strep bacteria from preventing the cavities. And then also even antibiotics. So if you got more serious and you need the antibiotic toothpaste or mouthwash, it can't bust through those biofilms. But what's really neat, now that we know about the microbiome, and we know that essential oils, things like tea tree, myrrh, frankincense, neem, cardamom, cinnamon, clove, they've been used for centuries for oral care, and now through scientific research we can see that they are able to inhibit quorum sensing of the pathogens. They stop the pathogen parties from like communicating and growing, and they're able to bust through the biofilms, clean them up, and still be friendly to the friendly bacteria. So they're amazing for oral care.
People, I hope you hear this. Our mouths have their own microbiome, and it is our front line of protection along with the gums. And when you damage that microbiome, same thing with our gut microbiome, we're inviting in pathogenic bacteria, we're inviting in problems. And so when we're using these very harsh, I remember being a kid and that brown Listerine, come on. I mean, it's just so nasty, but it's just like, it made you feel, when you switch with that, it just makes you feel like 30 years older, But it's just like, we're supposed to do that. And also it's painful. Like some of that stuff would actually be so painful, burning your mouth because of the alcohol and what other chemicals in there. But I want to address this because a lot of people also like, I want that minty fresh feeling in my mouth. How do we go with the natural treatments without having stank mouth?
Oh, well, the great thing is it eradicates stank mouth to a more root level, because you've got actual mint with its anti-inflammatory, antibacterial qualities that are actually dealing with those gases and those VOCs that are coming up from the guts or the body. So you're actually really getting to the root of it, because it's clearing up the bacteria that causes the odor, rather than just a synthetic aroma or taste of mint that's only the taste of it. And obviously, it's going to be minty fresh, but it's not dealing with anything.
Right. It actually has a purpose. It actually is doing something beneficial. That's so cool. So while we're talking about the oral health and also another area to care for, what about the tongue? Yeah,
we got a tongue scrape. Yeah. And that's so easy. If you don't have one, you can just use like the spoon upside down and clear that out. It's just so good to clear the tongue. And once you do it, you won't go back.
Yeah.
And that helps with breath too.
Yeah, it's one of the things, I mean, I'm just going to confess, it's like one of the things I look for when, if I'm watching something, somebody, social media, I'm like, oh, their tongue is like so, you could see, first, it's like, they might have a coating there, but then it's like coffee on the coating. You know what I mean?
Dear Miley Cyrus, when she had a phase where she was sticking out her tongue.
Yeah, it wasn't looking too right.
No, it was fun. And there were some online like acupuncture people like assessing, because there's the Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine. It has great analysis of tongue health.
Yeah, I don't want people acting weird like, well, now I got to make sure, my tongue. It's just something I think about because of just looking into oral care. And that's why I'm so happy to do this episode and having the very best person to talk about this stuff. But we have to clean that freaking tongue, clean your tongue.
We have 8 steps that are in my books and also on our site, and it will take you through the steps that will, including tongue scraping, to really help turn your mouth around. Or if you haven't been to the dentist in a while, do those steps for 3 to 6 months, and you'll have a much more successful appointment.
So awesome. So you mentioned biofilm a couple of times. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is exactly?
Yeah, so we can get them internally in the body, you know, in heart health and that. And in the mouth, it's like a colony of bacteria that can't fully be penetrated. And then it's like they set up sort of a hotel system, and they move in. And we do want to bust through those biofilms because it actually inhibits the teeth from they actually have their own respiration system. So the teeth need to breathe. And even so, we want to bust the biofilms, but even in a natural toothpaste, like at the health food store, you may find stuff with glycerin in it, which seems like an innocuous ingredient, but it actually coats the teeth, isn't removed from rinsing, and blocks that breathing. It blocks the saliva from doing its job.
There's a song called Glycerin. Who sings that song? I know somebody knows. Bush. See? I know somebody in the studio is going to know it. It's a good song, by the way, but not good for your teeth. Not good for your teeth. Oh my God, this is so good. And I want to talk about toothbrushes. I want to talk about something that I think about even when I'm watching old movies. And we're going to do that right after this quick break. So sit tight. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. With all of the things that we're exposed to today, the environmental toxicity, the weird stuff showing up in our food supply, we've got to do things to really support our immune system. Our immune system is really running the show on so many different levels to keep us healthy. And one of the most powerful things for supporting a healthy immune system is making sure that we're getting in some immunomodulators. So what does that mean? These are substances that can help to elevate our immune system in response to things that might be trying to creep their way into our body, into our cells, and defend us against those things. But it can also bring the immune system back down, calm it down if things are running too hot, AKA we're dealing with some autoimmunity. We need things that are intelligent. Many drugs out there that are pushed through pharmaceutical companies, though they mean well, they push your immune system in one direction, and that can really mess things up on the back end, leading to AKA side effects. So to avoid that, getting some natural immunoregulators are going to be a powerful thing you add into your life. How I do that, and it's been a consistent basis pretty much every single day for the past 3 months now, I've been using every day, and even had it this morning, the incredible mushroom elixirs from Four Sigmatic. So head over to foursigmatic.com/model. So that's FORSIGMATIC.com/model. And you're going to get 10% off all of these amazing superfood elixirs. My favorite is the chaga, and chaga has been clinically shown to increase your NK cell activity, so your natural killer cells, over 300%. It's also the most powerful antioxidant that we've ever seen in the history of humanity that humans actually consume. Powerful antioxidant, powerful anti-cancer, powerful immune system regulator. So that's what I use in the morning. I'll get some chaga, and sometimes I'll have it straight, or I'll blend it with some hot water, some healthy fat. So this could be some ghee, this could be some grass-fed butter, this could be some coconut oil, some MCT oil, things like that. With a little bit of cinnamon, maybe some other fun medicinal herbs you can throw in there. But this has been the daily thing that I've done for the past few months, and I highly recommend you start doing the same thing. They also have the mushroom coffees, and my wife is a big fan of these. And so the mushroom coffee mix has cordyceps and chaga in there. And today she ran out. She was like, where's my coffee? And she's not even, ever since we've been together, she hasn't been a coffee drinker, but this has been her daily thing. She loves the way it makes her feel, and she doesn't get some weird kind of caffeine spike and crash as well. So head over and check them out. foursigmatic.com/model for 10% off. Now back to the show. All right, we're back and we're talking with Nadine Artemis about our oral care, the care of our teeth, our gums, our tongue. And it's really important for us to understand that we get a real glimpse into our health when we take a look at what's happening with our mouth, with our teeth. And the funny thing is, it's like there's so many things about us we can't see that's happening internally. And our teeth are kind of like internal, but then you can open up and see them. And there's some data that I'd love for you to talk about relating like gum disease and things like that to issues with our heart. for example. So how is that
Yeah, isn't
possible?
that neat? Well, it's that plaque and sort of swallowing the plaque all the time. And there's the heart doctor, Stevenson. He says if you floss regularly, you could add 7 years to your life because you're not swallowing all that plaque into your body. And that's what I was saying before about having early birth, premature birth, is hooked up to gum disease in the mouth. It can be just literally because if there's, gum disease, which apparently 98% of the North American population has. So that's an issue. And also in my book, I have a chapter on vaginal health. But I go into there and I talk about, because there's a vaginal microbiome and the oral microbiome, if it's off, it can affect that for women. And it can actually be a root cause of infertility. Yeah.
And we don't think about
we
that
don't
at
think
all,
about
because
it
we
at
think
all.
we're separate. Everything is separate.
Yeah, and that's really how I definitely remember being raised like that. And then you also so your mouth is this separate thing, and then there's also no sovereignty. Like you hand over. Like I'm just going to go to the doctor. There was no collaboration or partnership in health. So I really feel like we're moving out of that time, and that made the body more of a mystery, more unknown. Well, it's only the area for the doctor to know, and your mouth is only for the dentist to know, and that's really been a part of my work. I'm not a dentist, but I've got teeth, and I need to know how to take care of them on a daily basis instead of once a year at the dentist.
Right, because your dentist doesn't live with you unless you're married to a dentist or you are a dentist. But yeah, that's the thing is, and I was sharing a little bit about my story too, we outsource our health to the quote expert, but you should be the number one expert on you. You live with you, and having that collaborative effort, because our physicians, our dentists, these could be helpful people. But even the word doctor means teacher, and just looking at, these are coaches, these are people to work together towards a common goal, because especially if they're a teacher, there's got to be a goal. If they're a coach, there's a goal. We're going in the same direction. If your physician or your dentist is not on the same page with you in the direction you want to go, get somebody else. And we have so many great resources now. And I'd love to talk about, first of all, there is this, it's been around a long time, but now it's just grown in awareness of holistic dentistry. So can we talk about, you mentioned mercury earlier a couple of times. What is the danger? I mean, I know a lot of people know, but just let's recap the danger of having mercury in the mouth, which is still a lot of people do. And what is an alternative if somebody needs a filling?
Yeah, so mercury fillings are those silver fillings, because I've definitely run into people before. They're like, oh, I don't have the mercury, I have the silver. But if it's silver colored, it's the amalgam filling. And not only is the mercury toxic, it's the whole combo. There's copper and nickel in there as well. And when a dentist removes mercury from your mouth, there's a whole hazmat protocol. That mercury doesn't change when it's left your mouth. So they have to it's full hazmat. It's a biohazard. But again, it didn't change. It didn't alchemize once it left your mouth. So it's in your mouth. And what we now know is that whether that filling is a day old or 40 years old, it releases mercury vapors into the body 24/7, with only increasing by 1,500% when you're chewing or drinking hot liquids. I live on a beautiful small lake. It's about 26 acres. If 2 mercury fillings were tossed into that lake, it would be deemed unswimmable.
That's crazy.
By the EPA. These are EPA stats. And yet we are implanting mercury fillings inches from our brain on children, pregnant women, and just everybody, men, everybody. So
it's one of the
insane.
most toxic substances
Yes.
humans play with. And
Yes.
we're like, let's throw it in some teeth.
Yeah, just
Oh my gosh.
apparently because it was used because it melds really easily.
Yeah.
And then it's still recommended for children if they're a bit more squirmish in the dental chair, because it's easier to apply. But I mean, many countries have banned it. We just have to catch up. I mean, obviously there's some vested interests that might be making it harder to remove. And then, so if you need a filling, I mean, also do you need a filling? Hopefully you're really at a dentist that's seeing that. And what we don't know, we didn't learn growing up is, and like I explained a while ago, is I did reverse the beginning of a cavity, and you can reverse cavities. You have to, because it's a sign from your body that you're not getting something. So it doesn't always go back to pure white, but it will solidify and you will literally not have a cavity anymore. It's an infection. If our hand was infected, our skin was infected, we can heal it and it would close up. It's the same with the mouth. So we also need to just kind of know that there's a paradigm shift there that we can know. So yeah, and then you want to have the cleanest, filling options possible, which there's still room for improvement there. But if you really are seeing a biological dentist, then they should have the cleanest options available.
So would one of those be like porcelain?
Porcelain has nickel in it, so actually, and that's way more expensive. So everybody can just let go of that one, because I used to think it was better, but it isn't. So you're just going to look for like different fillings. There's more ceramic now. I mean, there's BPA free, but I just feel like that's actually pretty BS because
it's a tricky place
it's
to get
still
into.
Plastic. Yeah, so hopefully you can just actually prevent it. Maybe you won't need a filling. There will be stems. We will be able to grow new teeth through stem cells any moment now. They have done it. It's just not like in all the dentist office. No. Yeah, they kind of put a little like shape casing, and then it kind of grows in there.
Interesting.
So there's hope for the future.
Yeah. And that makes me think about the past. When I would, if I'm looking at old documentaries or even shows based on like older times, like, The Witcher on Netflix is like this like fantasy, but they're like swords and riding horses and, dragons, that kind of thing. And I'm sitting there a lot of times and I'll see like two people in close contact, maybe it's like the love interest situation. I'm just like, if this was back then, minus the dragons, like I bet their breath stinks. I'm just like, how are they taking care of their teeth? They didn't have toothbrushes. And that's my question for you, is just like, a lot of these things are newer inventions. And so what were humans doing prior? Because you would think we'd have, poor tooth health, but that wasn't the case. Even when we find, remains of people, like they are elderly and also still have their teeth and they're healthy.
That's due to the diets, generally speaking. And in different cultures like Ayurveda, or people that had really early medicinal systems going on, I mean, they were using all the plants to take care. They were chewing on sticks and branches, and in North America it would have been like dogwood twigs, and there could be neem or mastic. So
in Kenya, my wife's country, she would chew sugarcane.
Oh, how interesting is that? Yeah. Yes, so you can see it's pretty mineral rich. And then really, thankfully for the work of Dr. Weston Price, who was the president of the American Dental Association in the 1930s. And then he traveled around the world sort of like Indiana Jones style with his wife. And they went to like the Pacific coast or the Hebrides in Scottish islands, or like tropical places, or in the Swiss Alps, looking at like the difference between the skulls of the Saint Tropez tourist town or the mountain town where they were still eating their sourdough bread and grass-fed butter, and like able to examine the skulls that they kept in the church. You know what I mean? I don't know why they kept them in the basement of the church, but it was good for him. He could see that there was integrity. So the Saint Tropez skulls were all like decayed and everything. Or in the Hebrides, you'd have twins. One lived inland, one lived at the port. So he was able to eat the jams and scones and stuff, and just like total decay, where the brother who ate traditionally still had his, full teeth and structure of his head, because it affects, right? The growth of our teeth and jaw is going to reflect the skull as an adult.
Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. And plus we have the quote internal toothbrush.
Yes.
The invisible toothbrush.
Yeah, and that was all working back then, generally speaking.
Oh man, so fascinating. And so, but with that said, our culture today, and even just having a little bit more quote hygiene, and which is helpful, because again, if we're talking and I'm smelling like, your, I don't know, the deer meat you ate or whatever, I don't know, it might not be pleasant, deer meat and coffee, whatever. And so taking care of our teeth today, toothbrushes, there's a lot of different options, but are we even using them correctly? That's the thing, because, there's like harder bristles and things like that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that is important. Everybody should use a soft bristled head, even like a big macho man. He just needs that soft one. And then you want to cleanse your toothbrush often too. So you can just have a 3% hydrogen peroxide solution at night, and you could dip it in there and rinse it off in the morning, because we don't want to keep bringing in the older bacteria and stuff. So that's important. And every family member should kind of keep their toothbrushes spread apart, because the bacteria will jump around. So you want to do that. And then your toothbrush 6 months down the road should look like the bristles should look like the day you bought it. You don't want them splayed in any way. If they're spread like that, that means you're brushing way too hard. And we have a serious issue with receding gums, and part of that is from brushing too hard. And also we go back and forth, and you don't want to do that either. You want to go from the gum down on the top row and the gum up on the bottom row. So you do a lift on the back, and you'll get it, you gotta do it a little bit slower, and you'll get used to that new rhythm. But it's very important, because that gum line, where the gum and the teeth meet, is where a lot can go off, and that the enamel there isn't the same. So you can get those gum line cavities once the gums start receding. And so I talk in my book about you want your gums like a turtleneck around all the teeth, and you don't want to be getting into like a cowl neck, V-neck situation. So we really have to take care of that. And we even have these syringes that are blunt tipped, and you could put some baking soda water in there. So that's like a nice alkaline water, a couple drops of the dental serum, and then you can flush out all the gum pockets of the bacteria and the plaque, and then the gums will start coming back down around the teeth.
I love that so much. That's great analogy, the turtleneck. Yeah. It's the only turtleneck I want. I do not like turtlenecks at all. My wife loves them. It just feels like somebody really weak is choking me all day, And I think it's again, this is a big paradigm shift, because for a lot of us, we're just trying to get the stuff off of our teeth, right? The plaque. And so we're going to be scrubbing hard. So that's a huge insight. Now, what about the type of toothbrush itself? Are you electric toothbrushes?
In my 8 steps, I talk about using 2 different toothbrushes. And there's an ionic toothbrush. And what that does is, through light, it actually clears up 40% of the plaque just through working with the negative ions. So that's just a manual one. And that's really good for the first part, where you're really focusing on the gums, because you do want to get up there and actually brush the gum a bit too. That will stimulate it and massage it. And then for the next phase, using an electric toothbrush, there's a whole bunch out there. There's a little round-headed one, because that's going to be it's a different shape than the manual toothbrush, and it can really get in behind the front rows, which can get a lot more plaque because there's some glands there. And then that phase is you're really just sort of working on buffing the teeth in that. So the first time you're really working with the teeth, the gums, and then the teeth. And the second one, you're really polishing those teeth, avoiding the gums a bit, and that's really buffing them and clearing off the plaque. And even with that, if you use a dental serum or just a pinch of baking soda and you get a bit of grit, it will be very cleansing.
Oh my God, this is so fascinating. I think that we've covered a lot of ground here. The thing I think would be of great interest would be helping with cavities. So is that a protocol in your book that people can look at?
Yeah, it's in there, and it's a little bit deeper of a discussion on some level, but on one level it is easy to understand. There probably needs to be a dietary change. Something's not being met. And then sort of a checklist you can go through, are you mouth breathing? That's a huge one for kids and adults, but especially for kids, because their faces will literally grow into a different shape. Not the one that was sort of meant. So you want to prevent that, which could be eliminating dairy, or just finding out the cause of the mouth breathing, or maybe there needs to be some osteopathy or something to kind of get into realignment. And then when adults stop because again, if you're mouth breathing, you're not allowing the saliva. Our teeth really are in a sea of alkalinity. And so, the saliva is very important. And when we're mouth breathing, we're drying all that up. And not even getting enough oxygen. So it actually really transforms people's lives. It can be a very radical thing to do, which is use mouth tape for an adult, and then you wake up refreshed and rejuvenated because you actually got oxygen all night long, and you're using your nose to breathe. So that's important. You kind of got to go through a checklist. And then the 8 steps, using some of our very potent dental serums, have really turned people around. I'm amazed at the feedback we get, and the dentist going, I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I heard with my spinal condition when I was 20.
Oh, yeah.
And they see the new scan, they're like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Yeah, but somehow I'm not curious enough to actually find out what you did, but...
Let me help some other people with this data.
Yeah.
This is so awesome. So while we're talking about your book, can you let people know where they can find your book and where they can find your product line as well?
Yeah, our books anywhere books are sold, and on our website, which is livinglibations.com. And we have all the dental and beautiful things there. And we have a lot of articles too. There's the 8 steps in there. I think we have an article on braces. And so there's a lot to dive into. And also feel free to email us. We will answer any and all questions. We have a deeply educated team. And we also do free consults for people, like a half-hour video call, and you can ask anything. So we have that as well.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay, final question. What is the model that you're here to set for other people with how you live your life personally?
Well, for me, I'd like to set my own standards of integrity and live in that alignment. And I think people can feel that in what we create and in the research in my book. So I love to just cut out the BS and also find the most exquisite materials to work with that the planet has to offer. And then from there, make all these beautiful concoctions. So also in my lifestyle, we always just aim for just finding the finest things to, be surrounded by and ingest and partake in.
Because we deserve it.
Yeah, we do. And it's fun. To me, that's a banquet that's just so abundant and fun. So it's like, maybe we've talked about a lot of things, or maybe in your podcast, you're like, don't do this, this, and that. But then a whole other world opens up, and life gets a little more beautiful.
Yeah. And this was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your brilliance. I'm so glad that you were being a little chemist, mixing stuff together when you were a kid, so you could help all of us today. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. I mean, we went from leaky gums to understanding the impact potentially of mouth breathing and how this impacts our cardiovascular system. We really need to take care of our teeth and our oral care. And when she talked about mouth breathing, I was thinking about Puff Daddy, Shawn Puffy Combs. Because when I see him, he's always like, I'm just like, close your mouth. I know he's mouth breathing. But he's been successful. But bottom line is truly training ourselves to breathe correctly, because all of these small things do have an impact. And I think that first and foremost, today is just about shifting our paradigm a little bit. A big thing for me was the toothbrush. Like, that is blowing my mind. And I think for a lot of us, like at the end of a couple months, our toothbrushes are looking like you've been cleaning floors with them. You know what I mean? They've just been beaten down so much. And so backing off on those things, understanding first and foremost that the health of our teeth is literally from the inside out, and making sure that we're well nourished, that we're eating plenty of healthy teeth nutrients, which is talked about in her book as well. And for the topical stuff, we need to shift away from this heavily chemicalized and dangerous ingredients that are in so many different toothpastes. No disrespect to Colgate, Crest, Aqua Fresh. What is the other one that I used to have? There's so many, and then also for our children as well, at the least we can start to upgrade and get products that have more natural ingredients. But even those, let's get to the simplicity, and do some of the basic stuff. And don't be afraid of like having stank mouth. We can find things to help to accentuate that good smelling breath. All right. But again, this is from the inside out. A lot of times, like, your mouth is connected to things deeper in your body. So when you smell somebody's, it's like something died in there. Maybe it did. All right. So inside out, making sure that we're eating good, clean, healthy food, taking care of our teeth. I'm sure we can, with our toothpaste, like she mentioned, we can add actual essential oil of mint, and it has benefits, right? Essential oil of mint. I didn't even know that was a thing. And it has benefits, not just a flavor sensation, but it actually has some benefits being, as you mentioned, these essential oils, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, so many cool things. All right. So I hope you got a lot of value out of this, and this shifted your paradigm a little bit to take better care of your teeth moving forward. And we've got some epic powerhouse shows coming your way soon, but none more important than today. So make sure to share this out with the people you care about on social media. And of course, you could tag me. Are you on?
Yeah, Instagram and all of them.
What's their
Living
handle?
Libations.
Living Libations. Tag Living Libations and let everybody know what you thought about the episode. All right. I appreciate you guys so much. Take care. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk with you soon.